Well, what is going on YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Today we're looking at a Kizer knife. It isn't one of these, but these are important because of what we're going to get to. I love old Kizers. And when I say old Kizers in this day and age, that doesn't go back that far, but I mean stuff like 2017, 2018 Kizers, which at this point are technically classics because of how fast the knife world moves. I'm not a huge fan of the newer Kizer stuff. Some of it's interesting. You know, I am kind of a fan of the Quatch here, right? That's a nice knife. But this is really representative of what Kizer is doing now. They're a little softer, a little smaller. Materials like N690 and 154 cm, stuff like that is very common. They're still using a lot of, I think they're using VG10 and some stuff. It's a great knife, but when I first started seriously collecting, which really only was 2017, 2018, this is the kind of stuff you could find for not a lot of money, and it is spectacular, right? This GTI, this is even their old logo, right? This is S35VN, it's hollow ground. It has titanium liners. It's just a monster of a knife. This is fantastic. Now, you can still get a Vanguard version of this that is smaller, but it's not the same. This is spectacular. You've got the cane, which, by the way, the Vanguard version of this you should avoid at all costs. It is a terrible knife, but for some reason, the full titanium version S35VN, this has got a whole different vibe, right? Then, of course, the GPB1, the Thuck. This is a...
What?
The name John Gray gave this, that was Women Carry Knives, his custom version is called the Thuck.
I know. You gotta be very careful with that one.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. I've actually had this knife 3 times. This is the first new one I've had my hands on, and the other ones I had have been kind of beat up. I think this is the one I'm gonna, end up keeping. This is Kizer is moving their old new stock. You can find these in sort of waves right now, which is actually how I ended up getting this. This is the Gunhammer, which is a little smaller than the others, but also classic 2-3 year ago Kizer. Thick chunk of S35VN, all titanium. This is what I want from Kizer, and they haven't been doing it. They really haven't. They've made smaller knives. And then recently, stuff like the Quatch. Great knife, but not what I want from Kizer. And now we'll finally get to the point of the video. You guys have been very patient, and I appreciate you. Somebody was nice enough to loan us a new version of the Kizer Sheepdog. And this is what I want from Kizer. This is awesome. This is the Kizer Sheepdog modified to get rid of the flipper. They have put speed holes, whatever you want to call it, in the tie show scale. It has a fuller, it's got a deployment hole, and they've given it a little forward choil. This is fantastic. There will be one of these coming into my collection. This is on loan. Women Carry Knives?
Cue ball.
Cue ball. Cue ball, my man. I'm so sorry. Was nice enough to loan this into us, and I'm a little mad at him because now I have to have one. Absolutely have to have one, and I will. I'm selling some stuff, and I'm going to order one. But this very much reminds me of this, right? And of this. This is Kizer doing what I love the most, which is just slabs of titanium, a big, thick, well-done chunk of S35VN. Guys, look, I know that their micarta is very good. I know that there are some Vanguard versions of this out there right now in the micarta, and everybody's crazy for it. That's not my thing. This, and you guys know this from watching my channel, this is my thing. So what do you get? Well, you get, and they were sort of ahead of this, you get that Kizer Sheepdog sort of cleaver blade, right, done a little bit better. You get 2 7/8 of cutting on what looks like 3.5 inches of S35VN. The grip area from behind this spot is 3 3/4, which is why I love this knife. It is perfect in my hand. The old Thai version was as well. But now, with this forward choil, you get 1, 2, 3, 4.5 inches of handle to play with, and that is fantastic. The knife itself, from tip to tail, looks like 7 3/4, coming in just under 8 inches. The action, well, that's fantastic. But I will tell you, this has got a really stiff detent. I was surprised. I can flip this thing, but it takes will and a little intent. Can you use the fuller? Yep, you can even use the fuller that runs the blade. God, this is marvelous. I know, I sound like a complete fanboy, but that's because I am, and I have been now for 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. For 5 years, I have been willfully and joyfully picking up these monster Kizers. I have been waiting for them, quite patiently, to start making these again. And here we are. And the best part of this, the most interesting part of this is entirely fan-driven. Over on their Facebook page, they have been asking, what can we do? How can we do it? What would you like? And the fans spoke. And Kizer absolutely listened. This is fantastic. Closed, this knife comes in at 4.5 inches overall. The pocket profile is a little thick. We'll do it here. You are looking at almost 2 inches, so 1 3/4 inches from edge to edge. But because there's no flipper tab, and it has this marvelous milled pocket clip, I love this on the original, I love it now. This thing really does ride the pocket well. Now, you will be able to get something else in there. I'll borrow Women Carry Knives pen. You could get a pen in the pocket next to it if you wear full-size jeans, right? Otherwise, this is probably going to chew up the whole pocket. This is really good. Now, you can I roll it out? Wow, the detent on this thing is a monster. You can pinch the blade out here and roll it out pretty much no problem. You want to keep your fingers off that lock bar because, again, that's a pretty stiff detent. Speaking of, it is a frame lock, as you can see. We are locked up at about 45%. It has a lovely steel lock bar insert, as most modern flippers do. The pivot is really nice. It has, is that a T6 or T8 everywhere? So these are all T8s. Those are T8s, T6s. These are, no, those are not T6s. So it looks like everything is T8. That's really nicely done. Look, you get a lot of knives. You know, you can spend your 190 bucks, your whatever, 180 bucks anywhere you want. I would get one of these. If you like stuff like this, or, you know, even off, if you really like titanium and well-done materials in a right-sized knife, which is relatively big, grab one of these new Kizer Sheepdogs. They have done a fantastic job. Now let's do some basic, you guys have seen all the Kizers. Let's do some other size comparisons just so you guys know what we're looking at. We'll get that lined up on this edge. Here it is against our old friend, the Rat Model 1, which is going to be longer, right? And here it is against our dear old friend, the Bug Out. Now the Bug Out, a little bit shorter. They have about the same cutting area. You just get a lot more knife in the Sheepdog. I love this thing. I always have. Now, I used to have the XL, but I had to move that along. I do have a couple of mini Sheepdogs floating around. Being a knife collector is tough. Being a YouTuber is even more challenging because eventually you just got to move some stuff. And I did sell my original flipper version of this knife. And I had serious regrets. One, they're kind of hard to come by. Two, I didn't want the micarta version. And then they dropped this. And that's okay with me. So there we are. Oh, let's weigh it. For those of you that have stuck around this long, let's take a look at what it weighs out at. It is not an ultralight knife, but with the speed holes in it, at least on one side. God, the action on this is fun. It does come down to kind of a, these are not notorious for their super thin behind the edge grinds. This is not really different. It is very slicey. It has cut all the media that I have put it to without hesitation or issue. But it's not a razor blade. It is an excellent cutter, though. All right, let's see where we come in. Yeah, 5.5 ounces. You know, it's not lightweight, but if we compare it against something like the GPB1, which is almost 7 ounces, right? The Quatch here, 4.7, 5.5. So this is an ounce heavier than the micarta Quatch. This is a great knife. It really is. And it brings out that sort of almost kid-like happiness in me when I use it and carry it. And that really matters. I mean, sure, look, I know a lot of people just want a working tool, in which case something like the Rat 1 is a fantastic option, or you can get a ton of Ganzos for 25 bucks. This is beyond that, because this knife does the same thing all those do, but it does it with just a ton of style. So Cue Ball, my man, thank you. And on behalf of my wallet, no thank you, because towards the end of next week, I guarantee one of these is going to come home. And that's where we're going to wrap it up. This is the new flipperless Kizer Sheepdog from Sheepdog Designs. It is wonderful. It just is. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. I know I've loved sharing it with you. I love having it in the pocket. If you have any questions, feel free to ask down in the comments. Otherwise, we'll see you next time, guys.